Welcome everyone to A Taste of Asia. I'm Vinay Nguyen, and on today's show I'm going to be making a very popular Chinese restaurant dish, fried rice. And fried rice is probably the most well-known Chinese dish. Rice, as you know, is a staple ingredient in all of Asian cuisine. Most Asian homes have a rice cooker that keeps the rice warm throughout the day. Rice isn't just for lunch or dinner, it's also consumed at breakfast. So you can tell how important rice is, not just in Chinese cuisine, but also other Asian cultures. And fried rice is a great dish to make with any leftover ingredients you may have. If you want to clean out your refrigerator, you could put almost anything in fried rice. I'm going to show you how to make a really quick, simple fried rice with shrimp. And I'm using raw uncooked shrimp that I've already cleaned, and I have marinating in a little bit of soy sauce and sesame oil, a little white pepper. White pepper is used quite a bit in Chinese cooking, but you can certainly use black pepper if you wanted. And I always recommend using raw uncooked shrimp because you'll be able to cook the shrimp. You'll have more control over cooking. And plus it'll absorb the seasonings better, as opposed to using already pre-cooked shrimp that you can buy in the store, like the cocktail shrimp. So definitely go with the raw uncooked shrimp. It'll just taste a lot better. So I always have that in the freezer because it thaws so quickly, and it also, of course, cooks very quickly. And the most important thing with making fried rice is you want to use cold rice. So I have cooked the rice a few hours ahead, and you just want to chill it so that it's completely cold. You could, of course, use brown rice if you wanted to, which gives a nuttier taste and texture as long as it's cold. And I've even made fried rice, so to speak, with quinoa, which is really delicious as well. So you want your rice cold, and the reason is if you were to use warm or hot rice, you'll most likely end up with kind of a sticky, gluey, gloppy mess, which you don't want. So that's probably the #1 tip with making fried rice, is to have your rice cold. And then, of course, since everything is being stir-fried, you want all your ingredients ready to go, diced, measured, prepped. So today, aside from the shrimp, I'm also using some onions with some diced carrots for a little color. And I just scrambled up a couple eggs, nothing fancy, scrambled ahead of time. And I have some frozen peas. You don't even have to thaw them, just the heat from the rice will cook them. So you can just take them out of your freezer about 30 minutes or so. And then I also have some bean sprouts, which are used quite a bit in Chinese cooking, as well as other Asian cuisines. And this gives a nice little crunch at the end. It doesn't need much cooking, so we're going to put that towards the end. And then the 3 ingredients that are used throughout Chinese cooking is really the backbone of Chinese cooking, is garlic, ginger, and scallions. So garlic, we're all familiar with. It's used in so many types of other cuisines. But ginger is the one ingredient that's used in all Asian cooking. So you can't cook Asian food without ginger. And you simply just have to peel the outer tough skin, and you can use a peeler, or you can use, some people use the back of a spoon, or you can just peel away with your knife. And then once you have the peel gone, you can just cut into thin pieces. And ginger, fresh, smells so good. You don't want to use the powdered ground stuff. That's just simply for baking, really. Fresh is really the best way to go, especially when you're cooking Asian food. You want to use fresh. And I just minced that up real quick like that. And ginger is actually really healthy for you too, and it helps, as you know, if you have an upset stomach. So it has a lot of health benefits as well. And then the scallions, which are used throughout Chinese cooking, really in almost every Chinese dish you'll see scallions. It is related to the onion family, so if you're not crazy about onions, of course you can leave them out. I use both the bottom portion, which tastes more like an onion, we'll use that in the beginning when we make our fried rice. You just make thin slices. And then the top portion of the scallions, because we don't want to waste anything, this is used just towards the end of cooking because it's almost just to add a little extra color and more to add freshness to the dish. So it really doesn't need much cooking time at all. And if you cook a lot of Asian food at home like I do, one thing that I like to do with the scallions, because the Asian culture, we try not to waste anything, is what you can do is just use the top portion, as I showed you, and then keep the stem intact, and then just put this right back in water. And then in a few weeks, what will happen is new green tops will start to form, and you continuously use ginger scallions throughout cooking. So it's a good way to kind of recycle your scallions. And so we have, like I said, the three main ingredients throughout Chinese cooking are garlic, ginger, and scallions. And simply what we need to do is, it all comes together very quickly. You don't need a fancy wok to make fried rice. You can simply use a frying pan like I have here, or a skillet. Anything that's sturdy enough so that the ingredients don't burn, but you know, you don't feel like you have to go out and buy a wok. You just have to have a nice hot skillet, and I'm using a little bit of canola oil. You could use vegetable oil or peanut oil just to get it started. What we're going to do is cook our aromatics, our ginger, garlic, and scallions along with our onions. Even though I have the scallion bottoms, I had mentioned tastes very similar to an onion, I always think fried rice should have onions. So I'm adding just a little bit of diced onions. And fried rice is a dish that, believe it or not, one of the first things I learned to make when I was probably in first grade, when I decided I really loved food and I loved cooking. I learned to make fried rice. So I think after all these years now, I've been pretty accustomed to making fried rice. It's really a simple dish. You want to keep in mind, as I mentioned, that with stir frying it goes very quickly, so you want to have all your ingredients laid out as I have here. And you can really make fried rice out of anything. If you wanted to use chicken, you could, pork, beef, any protein that you like. You can even use tofu. You could keep it vegetarian and just load it up with vegetables, as long as your rice is cold, as I mentioned. And what we're doing is just cooking the onions with our carrots. And I like to use carrots because it adds a nice punch of color. Okay. And we're going to add a little bit of our Chinese trinity of ingredients: garlic, ginger, and some of the scallions, the bottoms. And it's already starting to smell really nice in here because of the onions and the garlic. I always tell people, if you want your friends and guests to think you've been cooking all day, just cook up a little onions with some garlic and ginger, and it makes the whole kitchen in your house smell really nice. And then we're going to add our shrimp. Okay, so just continuously stir. With stir frying, you always want to just keep the food moving so that it's constantly cooking evenly. And so I'm going to add my shrimp. Again, I put just a little bit of soy sauce, sesame oil, and a little white pepper. And sesame oil, keep in mind, is a really strong flavored oil. You never want to use it in large quantities. It's more of just a flavor enhancer. It's not really an oil to cook with. So a little bit goes a long way, but it really does add a nice little kind of nuttiness to a dish. And so even though sesame oil is in with the shrimp, I'm actually going to drizzle in a little sesame oil right at the end just to finish it off. So I like to use, when I'm stir frying, 2 utensils. Just helps to stir the food and keep it going. Okay, it's come along really nice. It smells so good. So with stir frying, you want to always keep it on high heat and just keep stirring the food like this. I've made fried rice out of almost anything you can imagine. It's a great way to use leftovers too. Probably the best fried rice I've made, believe it or not, I had some leftover prime rib from the holidays once. And to this day, I always say that makes the best fried rice is prime rib. Of course, you would never buy prime rib just to make fried rice, but if you have any leftover, you should definitely give that a try. Okay, so once the shrimp is just about done, you can see it turns pink. You don't want to overcook the shrimp. What I'm going to do is move this to a dish, because now what we're going to do is stir fry the rice. And then we'll add back the shrimp along with the other ingredients. So I just move this to a dish here. And then you don't have to clean out the skillet. You can just put everything in your dish. A little bit more oil. And once you have all your ingredients ready to go, you'll see how fast this comes together. So again, I have my cold rice. I like to use jasmine rice, but you can use any long grain white rice that you like. And what I'm going to do is use my utensils to just break up the rice as it cooks. What you could also do before you put your rice into your pan is you could wet your hands and just break up the clumps with your hands. Or just do what I'm doing here. I'm just using my 2 utensils to break up the clumps. Again, keep it on high heat. And the great thing about Chinese fried rice is that if you make it yourself, I promise you it's better than takeout. You can really season it the way you like. This is going to be a really simple fried rice with just soy sauce as the seasoning. But if you like it spicy, you could add a little sriracha. Lately, I've been eating a lot of kimchi, which is a Korean condiment. It's like a pickled or fermented cabbage. And if you like spiciness, you can add some chopped up kimchi to your fried rice. Is absolutely amazing. So as the rice heats up, we're just breaking up the clumps like this. You can see how easy it is using 2 utensils. And then the rice will start to soften a bit as it cooks. So before we add back our shrimp and our carrots and onions, we're just going to wait for that to heat up. Now, in Asian culture, rice, as I mentioned, is a staple. It's really the staff of life, the backbone of every meal. So unlike with American cooking, usually rice is considered a side dish. But a lot of times in different Asian cuisines, it's really the highlight of the dish. And unlike with American food, the protein is almost like a garnish. So whether it's shrimp or chicken, it's usually in a smaller quantity. Rice or noodles are the base of the meal, and then a lot of vegetables, of course. And then your protein is more of a garnish. Unlike with American cooking, usually meat is the main highlight of a meal. Okay, so this is coming along really nicely. So you'll see how fast this comes together. We're going to add back our shrimp with our vegetables. And the other thing great about fried rice is you start off with just a few ingredients, and a lot of things you have on hand already. You know, peas that are in the freezer, scramble up a couple eggs. And you start off with just a few ingredients, and you'll see that this makes quite a bit of fried rice, enough for a good meal. Okay, so now I'm going to add back our cooked shrimp with the carrots and the onions and the scallions, garlic and ginger. Okay, And any of the juices you want to include because that's where all the flavor is. So you don't want to waste that. Okay, so we're almost done. Now we just give this a good stir. And it smells really, really good in here. The smell of garlic and ginger is such a nice aroma. Okay, so we're going to constantly stir. Stir frying, of course, is a technique more so than a dish. It's actually the way to prepare a dish. It's more of a technique. And even though it originated in China, it's used, of course, throughout all of Asia. And now, once this is all fully mixed, we're going to just finish the dish off. The other thing great when you make fried rice at home, you can add as much shrimp as you want. It's usually in the restaurants or a takeout, they don't give you that much. Okay. So then I'm going to add in my scrambled eggs. And my peas. That adds a nice little sweetness as well as some color. And then I'm going to add a little bit of soy sauce. I don't add too much because you can always add more when you and your guest eat. And I don't like the fried rice to be too dark in color anyway. You want the nice kind of pureness of it. So a little bit of soy sauce. I use low sodium, which I find still has quite a bit of salt in it. You can hear that nice sizzle. Okay, so see how pretty this is. Just constantly stir. And this is why 2 utensils really come in handy because you can really get underneath and toss everything around. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to just add my bean sprouts. Okay, and this adds a nice little crunch. It doesn't need much cooking, less than a minute. Give that a toss. And you can already see how much this made from just what little we started off with. Okay, and then lastly, the scallion tops. Put some in, and I'll leave a little for garnish. So at this point, of course, you can add a little spice. Little sriracha is nice. And if you only had red pepper flakes, that would work too, just to add a little heat. Okay. Now I promise you this will be much better than takeout. Okay. And then as I mentioned, I'm going to just drizzle in a little bit of sesame oil right at the end, because that adds just a nice little punch of flavor. And a little goes a long way. So just a little drizzle. You can really use any vegetables in fried rice. Snow peas are really nice. Snow peas are used quite a bit in Chinese cooking. You could add broccoli to this, mushrooms. Tofu is good if you're a vegetarian, or if you just like tofu, that's nice in fried rice. And then you can see how quickly that came together. Okay, so let's put this in a dish for serving. So you can see how much this made from such a little amount of rice. That's one thing, is I can't make fried rice for one. So it's always good to have leftovers anyway. But this is definitely enough for quite a few people. Okay. So simple. We only used a few ingredients, but you can definitely make this more of a meal. You know, add another protein if you wanted to do pork with shrimp or chicken. Okay. And then I'm going to use more of my scallion greens as a garnish, like that. Okay, and let's serve up a little for me to taste. Okay. So see how the bean sprouts are still a little crisp. You don't really want to cook them too much. Okay, we'll give this a taste. Usually rice we eat in a bowl. It's very common in Asian culture, and with chopsticks, of course. So let me give this a taste. Delicious, and it is better than takeout. So other ways of making fried rice, it doesn't have to just be Asian. Recently I made fried rice, believe it or not, Italian style, and instead of using soy sauce, I used a basil pesto and Parmesan cheese, which sounds strange, but just to show you that you don't have to always stick with Asian flavors. You can really make fried rice out of anything. I had some leftover steak fajitas with peppers and onions and mushrooms, and I added that with some leftover rice, and I had kind of a Mexican-American style fried rice. So as long as you have your ingredients cut and diced and measured, within minutes you can make a great fried rice that's better than any restaurant takeout dish, and you can make it exactly the way you want. And just with a few ingredients, you can see how much this probably serves at least probably 4 people. And it's a great addition to any Asian themed meal you have. If you wanted to make, for example, a teriyaki chicken would go with this, or even simple steamed fish would go really well. And so just keep in mind that it's a quick stir fry that you can make any night of the week, and you just want to have your rice cold, your ingredients all ready to stir fry, and then you end up with a delicious fried rice that will beat any Chinese restaurant. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Vinay Nguyen, and I hope you join me again for another Taste of Asia.